Hey everyone, welcome. My name is Christine.
And I'm Denise.
And we are
Soul Nektar.
Nektar with a K. We're excited to open this space up and help you discover what it means to live luminously.
Having conversations about what that means and how to explore and expand our inner radiance. Becoming the architects of our lives and recognizing the power that we have in that.
Yes, to know ourselves, to know our inner world more than focusing on our outer world, and to live from the space of yes, to know what it means to be and experience a life that is full of joy and excitement and just really understanding who we are as humans.
So join us and bring yourself, your open mind, and your willingness to create your dream life and design from your heart space to fully step into the present moment and
get to know yourself.
Yeah.
Yes.
And explore and expand your soul nectar.
Yes. Yeah, the awareness bank account.
The awareness bank account.
I think that was like, oh yeah, because then you realize like you have a certain, just like you have a certain amount of cash in your bank account, you have a certain amount of awareness every day that you spend doing, your habitual activities, your, new activities. Maybe you learn something new, maybe you go somewhere new. But in terms of like everyday awareness, you have a certain amount each day. And at the end of that day, if you're doing the same thing over and over and over, day after day after day after day, which is what in human like sociology and psychology and the way we interact with each other and ourself is by habitually doing the same thing every day on repeat without even being aware that we're spending this, all of our awareness every day, each day, doing the same thing, reactivating the same networks, and then at the end feeling the same way because we're just doing the same thing over and over. We're like robots, literally. And that's where people are getting depressed and anxious. And, that's one area at least.
And how many thoughts per day we have that are exactly the same as the day before?
Every day in modern brain science says and calls, says basically that we have 60,000 to 80,000 thoughts every single day.
And I probably have 120 at least.
Right. And if you have anxiety, you're going to have double that, right? Like there's always going to be like more. If you have different things going on, you're probably having more thoughts than that's the average person has around 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day. Of those, the next day, those same 60 days are the same exact thoughts sometimes as the day before, up to like 90% or 95%, I think it is actually, unless we decide to become conscious of what we're thinking about. So when you become conscious of what you're thinking about, you become able to control more of your life because then you begin to realize that you're not conscious during all these hours during the day. And so you're spending frivolously that attention bank account on things without even realizing you're spending, like, maybe you come home every day and you sit down and you watch TV as soon as you get home because that's how you relax. But really you never feel refreshed or you never feel better. You just do the same thing every day because you think that that's what you want to do. Yeah. But it's just a pattern. And you don't realize that the thing that's going to make you feel better, say working out, prepping your food, calling a friend, reconnecting, forgiving someone, something that's a little more difficult or something you have to consciously think about. You don't realize that those are the things that actually create lasting change, not only in your life, in your brain, in your body, like in all the levels of what makes you human.
Like Dr. Joe says, breaking the habit of being yourself. Right?
Exactly. That's literally why that's the name of his book. Yeah. If you're ever interested in, looking into actually how you do that, Dr. Joe Dispenza has a book called breaking the habit of being yourself. And the name refers to being the habitual person you are and not and then wanting a different outcome. It's like that is literally the definition of crazy, right?
Yeah.
It literally is.
Yeah.
It's like it's doing the same thing every day and expecting a different result.
Yeah.
That is so interesting to me, like when you think about it like that. So I had to, when I got better through my own healing journey, it was really about breaking the idea that every mood I was in was who I actually was. Like that's what I believed. Like I woke up, oh, I'm achy, so now I'm grumpy. Oh wait, I'm achy, but I'll be okay in like 5 minutes. I guess I don't need to go through the emotional part of it if I can break that. If I can just say, okay, I'm going to listen to a good song, or I'm going to like do something that breaks the habit of me going directly into the grumpy mood. And then you break the habit of being yourself, and then you realize you never really were that mood. You just practiced being that mood every morning at the same time, day after day after day, and until you forgot why you were in a grumpy mood, and you become the grump. You know? So that's the other thing Dr. Joe says, is that what fires together wires together. And that's why you move unconsciously through your day, because you're wired to do that. So
how did you get turned on? You had a healing journey.
I had a major healing journey experience of moving from chronic illness of 12 years into complete remission and teaching yoga and teaching workshops on how to help people heal their mind and their body. But it was really about coming to the awareness, or coming to the consciousness, the conscious awareness that I was literally the problem in my own life. The story I was telling myself in each moment. So I'm grumpy at 5 o'clock at night because I'm sore by 5 o'clock at night. I'm, I don't want to visit with people because I don't want to talk to you because I'm not really interested in what you have to talk about, because I'm so numbed out on my meds that I don't really feel emotional, or I can't connect to you when you're talking, so I don't even want to talk to you.
Tell me about the meds.
The medications?
Yeah.
So when you have a chronic illness, typical Western medicine protocol says change their chemical makeup. That's why we have pharmaceutical companies running the world, right? Like, let's change their chemistry. Let's change the molecules in their body chemically, and then they're going to miraculously feel different. But what ends up actually happening is they put you go in for a symptom, right? Like, oh, my knee's hurting. Like, my knee's really hurting and I don't know why. I can't figure it out. And this is what happened to me. I went in my mom got sick. She passed away. And 10 days after her funeral, I woke up and I couldn't walk. And so it was literally like I woke up one day and couldn't walk. Yeah, like I couldn't move my body. I was in my whole body was in so much pain, and all my joints were inflamed, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. And so I think I got into the doctor within a few days. I just had to lay around in pain and not knowing what was wrong. And then I got into the doctor and they said, you're having an autoimmune, what do they call it? A flare-up. They call it a flare-up, an autoimmune flare-up. And I was like, what do you mean? And they said, your immune system is attacking itself.
As a result of the trauma?
Well, no, they didn't know. They didn't use any of that language. That's what I came to understand later.
Did you have any connection in your mind at that time? Like,
not even a little bit.
Wow.
I literally, the trauma I experienced was on I know exactly the dates, because, it's very specific. It was my birthday. That's why I remember. It was December 11th when I got the phone call to come get my mom and take her to the hospital. So, of course, I took her, and that was when they told me she had cancer, and I didn't know. I didn't know she had been in and out of the hospital, quite a bit the last, few weeks. my parents didn't tell me that. So
and you and your mother were close?
Very close. So, I mean, I knew she'd been like my mom was like a heart patient and like, she was in and out of the doctors a lot kind of. So
she smoked too,
she
right?
smoked back until I was 14.
That was back in the...
That was, yeah, in
Plus
the 80s.
she was quite a bit older, correct?
Yeah, she was 41 when she had me. So by the time I was 14, she couldn't, she had to quit smoking or she was going to die, is what the doctor said.
Okay. So
and she had to have a quadruple bypass when I was 14. And they thought she was going to die. And she didn't. She made it. And she lived another, almost 25 years not smoking, I guess. I don't know. Was it that long? No, I'm like, oh no, what was my math doing? I would say like 20. Yeah, she died in 2006.
And you were...
Oh, wait, no. She didn't smoke for about the last 16 years of her life, I guess I would say. When my mom died, I was 26.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 10 days later, you wake up and...
So 10 days later after she dies, I wake up. And going back to what you were saying is, did we have any idea that because of so that was in December when I experienced the trauma of finding out she had cancer. She died 6 weeks later. Wow. So 10 days after that was when I woke up. And at the time, the day of her, that weekend, my body started producing, I started getting hives all over my arms and all over my face and neck. That the weekend, like 24 hours after I found out. So I experienced that really harsh trauma of finding out she had cancer. And then I woke up the next day and I had hives. But nobody had any idea that my hives were, I'm sure we kind of were like, oh, you're just stressed out. But no one had any idea that the cascading range of events that were going to happen as I had experienced that trauma and had no idea that trauma was living in my body as like a parasite almost.
Yeah. Oh.
And it was sucking my life force energy.
And so you went into the doctor and you were prescribed
pain meds. Lots of pain meds. Because I was in pain.
How long did it take you to get to the peak of your pain med journey or your pain med journey to hell?
To hell. It was a roller coaster. So with Western medicine, pharmaceutically speaking, they tell you you're going to try a whole bunch of different meds. We're going to put you on pain meds, and then we're going to give you these other types of what they call biological medication, autoimmune medication that will basically either work or it won't. And you'll know it's working because you won't have as much pain. And these are basically immunosuppressants. So they are smaller dose versions of immune response. So they subside your immune system. They work
repress it.
Yeah. It's like basically something. It's like anti-cancer. Like what's the anti-cancer medication? Like when you go in and you have radiation and chemotherapy. It's chemotherapy.
Okay. Oh.
So it's a form of chemotherapy, but it's a lot lighter, but it's still chemotherapy. It suppresses the immune system, and basically so your immune system stops attacking itself. So then the inflammation will stop, because really a flare-up is when your body, all the joints in the synovial fluid is what the joint sits in. It's this fluid that it all sits in. And that fluid, the red blood cells just flame up. And so everything turns hard and nothing can move because it thinks it's under attack. And I don't know why it does that, but that's just that. So I have an autoimmune disease that runs in my family. Now, does that mean all my cousins and all my siblings have the autoimmune disease? No, actually I'm the only one that I know about in my entire that side of the family who had arthritis like my grandmother. But the environment, the trauma I experienced was what the onset was. It's like we all have cancer cells in our body.
Yeah.
But why aren't they they're turned on and off based on the environment in which they're in. So if you eat bad and you live a stressful life and you don't move a lot, those are, 3 notches on the pole towards activating,
It's like another one of those bank accounts.
It's another one of those bank accounts.
Yeah.
It's exactly what it is, really and truly. So, Yeah, so no, I had no idea. So going back, I, tried all these medications, and the whole time they had me on lots of Vicodin and morphine, and even on fentanyl at one point.
Wow.
And it was...
How did you feel?
It was a slow digression. And what I believed was that it was the illness that was causing my personality digression. Wow. And really it wasn't. It's the numbing of the medications. It's the altering of the chemical body.
Your personality digression. Explain that.
So I went from being a happy-go-lucky, positive, super friendly, outgoing person to like the person I am now, my normal self, my personality.
Which, by the way, is fucking awesome.
Thanks. Sweet. But, and then I went to not wanting to do anything, just wanting to stay home all the time, always. And I couldn't, like I said, I couldn't relate to anybody's, like they would tell me, when you're with a friend now and we're clear-minded and we're not on, you're just like, they tell you something and you feel feel them, you feel their story. There's an exchange of energy, empathy, vibration, however you want to explain it. And when you're on medication, it's almost like your energy body gets sucked in so close to your body that even connecting to somebody else's, it's almost like impossible because you want to, but you don't sense the feeling of it. You don't sense the change of like the exchange of that. Like when you leave somebody that you love hanging out with and you always feel better after you leave them. Yeah. That's an exchange of vibration. That's an exchange of energy. And if you go to do that over and over again, and the story you're telling your friend, because that's what you do when you get together with your friends, is I'm miserable, I don't feel good, I'm in so much pain, I can't move, I can barely shower. All of a sudden you're telling that story over and over. You're sucking the life out of everything, out of your relationships.
Like consistently narrating your own
trauma,
painful life.
Because that's what it is, like an overextended state of post-traumatic stress you're in, and your body's reacting to it.
Well, and I know that we're going to go into this more with time, but
absolutely.
Could you describe how you healed yourself? How did you get out of that wheelchair and on those, how many meds?
19 medications. At the worst, I mean, I always use that. At the very worst. Not like the whole time, but yeah, at the very worst, I was on 19. I had gone to the emergency room.
19 different medications and using a wheelchair.
Off and on for 10 years. I had a walker, crutches, a wrap around a body part of some, and it would switch because it's arthritis. So I had like what they call polyinflammatory, which just means I had many types of arthritis.
So what was the moment? Do you remember the moment that you decided?
Made the decision.
Yeah.
Yes.
How does that look and feel for you? How did that?
That was a moment I remember actually very well, because it was a real moment of awareness that I wasn't stuck. And it was coming to terms with this experience I had when I was interacting with my daughter. And in that interaction, I had what in psychology we would call a metacognizant moment, where I kind of saw myself from an outside point of view. And I realized that in that moment, I was so different than the person I was raised to be, than the person I had known myself as. I had never experienced this type of interaction.
You were observing.
I was observing this shell of a human that I was, interacting and yelling at my daughter in a way that was so out of character for me that it caught my attention. And I realized I was watching myself. Like I was thinking behind the yelling, and I was witnessing the yelling as it was happening. And at the same exact moment, I was thinking, where did you learn this? Who taught you? No one yelled at you like this. What is this? It was like things I had seen other people do.
Yeah.
But I had never had that happening to me. So it wasn't a personal, like, you know how you treat your child kind of, you know, we do what our parents do because that's the program we have in our brain. That's what we know. We do what we know as human beings. But I had this was so far from anything that I had been taught or raised in, understood was normal, because I was yelling at a 5-year-old, like, and expecting her to understand that I didn't feel good, you know? And it was weird. It was a weird moment, like, where I was like, God, what are you doing? You know?
Our kids, once again,
the mirrors of our life.
Teachers, God, the greatest teachers.
Our greatest teachers.
So you had a moment with Gigi, your daughter,
because she was laughing.
When she was 5.
Yeah, she was laughing at me.
Oh.
And because she didn't understand, she thought it wasn't normal.
You were just being
the way I was behaving was
silly.
not.
She thought it was kind of silly.
And she thought I was being funny. And then I realized, like, oh, you're really angry right now, and you're really yelling at her, and she really doesn't get it. And who is this? Like, that was all going on while I was yelling. And so in that moment, that's when I started to realize, like, I had had a few other very specific moments that all kind of came together in a rush at that moment. Where I was like, oh my God, I've been stuck in my house. I had just learned about ecotherapy. My really good friend and neighbor next door was going through his master's program at Lewis and Clark for teaching, you know, he's a licensed therapist. And
ecotherapy, describe that.
Was the class he happened to be taking at the time. And ecotherapy was this, so I was having an anxious moment. I was having a panic attack, basically. Not a panic attack where you lose your breath and can't talk, but just I was having a major breakdown. And he happened to walk in on it one day. And he was like, sis, let's go outside. You need to get out of the house. You've been inside this house for too long. Like, let's get outside. And so we went outside, and he told me to take my shoes off, and he told me to put my feet on the ground. And then we ended up sitting outside in the garden for like an hour and a half. And at the end of that hour and a half, I was so much calmer. And I had no idea, like, there wasn't a lot that had to happen. It was just like, get me outside. We didn't talk about the problem the whole time. You know, I ended up like getting sidetracked and being like, oh, I really need to like remember my garden. Like, oh, I forgot I need to do these weeds or whatever it was. And I realized that, oh, an hour and we both had really like, geez, an hour and a half went by, and like, you look how much better you are. And so the ecotherapy was a profound eye-opening moment that I had had previous to this one moment. And so then I realized, like, oh, there's more that I need to learn. Like, there's hope.
Hope.
There's hope.
Well, we need to wrap this up today, but on that line of hope, how would you like to end today's talk, given your story and that ray of hope, and stepping into where you were at that day to where you are now? What advice would you give someone who might feel some of those same feelings on different levels? Or
I would say you're hearing this for a reason, as a wake up to your own greatness, to your own ability, to your own magic inside of yourself that is real. It's not just something that, you know, the ancients talked about or that people talk about as being, you know, magical. No, it's about like stepping into knowing your own power.
Healing,
like literally
through
healing yourself and understanding how your mind, your body, and your soul are all interconnected and equally as important. And when you have a deeper understanding of that interconnection, you begin to have a deeper fulfillment in your life.
And understanding that it doesn't always express itself as a physical ailment, that we can be in our heads and it can not be okay, or our emotions can be all over the place.
Excuse me.
But I love it. I love it. And everything that you've learned and taught me. And we do have our live workshop coming up where we will be talking about a lot of this healing information, and you're going to be talking about meditating and debunking some of the myths around meditation, and calming the monkey mind, and some
and
of the
how
tools.
meditation was it was the tool that healed my body. So using it as like like a medicine, right? For me, I always use that hashtag on everything, is meditation is the medication.
Yeah. Woo. I love it.
There it is. All right.
Wow.
Oh, no, not that one. Silly. Okay, that was good. Okay, well, I guess that's it for today, huh? So we'll get back to this and explain more, and we hope you tune in and join us again on our Soul Nectar podcast. We love doing this with you guys.
Chicka chicka. Bow bow.
Bow chicka bow wow.